place to hang out. My father moved to Alabama, a little town called Muscle Shoals, in the early 2000s. And I lived with him for about 3 years. In my early teenage years, and then I came back when I was, I left when I was about 16, but I used to play in the bars all the time here. And I remember there was this, gentleman who was like the saddest person I think I'd ever met in my life. He was always literally weeping and drinking at the same time. And I'd always try to cheer him up, but he would always say something to bring the situation and mood back down. No matter what I said, he just was determined that he wanted to be sad. So I wrote this next song as sort of a comical version of him, but it just wound up being sad, just like him. Anyway, this is a song called Fifth Avenue Bar. I could sit here and I could think about the things that I ain't got. Don't mind me if I hesitate to tell you the truth anymore. And I come in here with a pocket full of money. I might leave here with a dime in my pocket. Either way, that don't make me happy. All I have is your picture in a locket. He said no, he says no. See, young man behind the bar will take the bottle. Here's how you let go, here's how you let go. I could sit here and occupy for your love to be as strong as mine. But instead I'll keep the peace, sit here lonesome in my grief. I could go somewhere and burn this lonely picture. Even in my head, I know I still remember walking down the street in my wallet, there's a 50. Then I drop it down at the place where we feel empty. Yeah, I'm down the street at the Fifth Avenue bar, talking to the man who's lighting up his cheap cigar. Say for me it did, for me it this next song about my grandfather after he died. I spent a lot of time with him growing up, and we were both sort of the outcasts of the family. He ran an illicit, illegal, he made his money illegally, let's just put it that way. And, but he was also a hairdresser, and he cut women's hair, and which is hilarious. And he was good at it too, and he was absolutely really, really funny. He had a hard life though. He had gotten married young, and then he had my mother and my mother's sister. And then his wife died, my grandmother. I never got to meet her because she died in the early 70s. But after that, I guess he just decided to not ever take relationships seriously ever again, and had girlfriends galore and drank all the time.
Not the grandpa.
He was. He was very charming, and he was the only man I ever knew who could have 6 girlfriends at the same time, and when they all found out about each other, they still liked him. I don't know how that's possible. You gotta be pretty fucking charming to do that.
Exactly. Chop their hair.
Exactly, it's really hard to find a hairdresser. I think that's probably a good one anyway. But he would get super drunk and all the time, and he was an outlaw to the bone, and he would carry a bottle of vodka in this boot and a .38 revolver in his other boot. And he would get so drunk that he would sometimes mix them up. And we'd be out in public, and I'd have to be like, put the fucking revolver away. But we had a lot of fun together, and I spent, like I said, a lot of time with him. He was like more like a father to me than my own father. And after he died, it took me a while to write his story. I wanted to write a song that was sort of about him, and you know, he got a lot of judgment from the community, and when he finally got busted and the FBI surrounded the house, that was pretty interesting. But this one is a song called "A Man Like Me," and it goes out to him. You can't play without this, folks. Let's see, I got to tune this guitar. This is a 1940 Epiphone Zenith, and it is so fucking old that it doesn't want to hold a tune anymore, so I probably won't hold tune either when I get that old, if I'm lucky enough to get that old. But I love this guitar.
We can wait.
When I was a young man, I played the hand they dealt. While I tried to bury always it fell. Last man I thought you knew me very well. The fire and blaze in turn, you can call upon decent memory. We're all here. Inside the seeds that sown on in a man alone. Thank you. My grandfather's next door neighbor was a crackhead named D, and he had a wife and 2 kids, and his job was fixing stolen cars. And I'll never forget, I can't believe my grandfather would let us play over there, but he would. And we would play with his kids, who were appropriately named Crystal, after you can only imagine what, and Benny. And we played with them all the time. And they had, I'm not making this shit up, they had a pet alligator in a tiny glass aquarium, and it was a baby, but it kept growing and kept growing until the glass started breaking. And I was like, what the fuck are you guys gonna do when that thing breaks out of there? So anyway, but it was so funny because D, his name D, you couldn't understand a word that came out of his mouth. And he would be outside, and he always worked on these stolen cars in his underwear because he didn't have a lot of nice clothes, so he didn't want to get grease on his clothes. So he'd be out there drinking a huge tall boy Bud Light or whatever, or a Mad Dog looking 2020, and I could just see him right now fixing them stolen cars. And then all of a sudden he had this machine. It was a military vehicle called a duck, and it could drive on swamp or it could drive on land. So whenever the cops would finally catch on to him, they would start hauling ass down the driveway, and you would just see D's ass in the distance. He would be just hauling ass toward that duck, and he would jump in that thing and just go out into the swamp. And then the cops would stop where we were playing in the yard, and they'd say, "You see where he went?" And we'd just shake our heads, no, you know. We were always told to never speak to the police, so we never did. Don't answer any questions.
Only in America.
Innocent until proven guilty. Only in America.
Yes, sir.
Alright, so that's enough about my fucked up childhood. Let's move on. Alright, let's do it.